What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're installing an Old Man Emu 2.5-inch lift kit on this 2015 GX460. We're going to try and make this video as informational as possible, hopefully help you be able to install the same kit in your driveway. I'm going to go over a quick rundown of the parts and some common questions that we get, to hopefully make it easier on you. So the first thing that we're going to go over is spring rates. Spring rates are super important, and it's going to directly determine the ride quality of your vehicle on-road and off-road. You have a couple options with the springs. You have light, medium, and heavy up front, and you have light, medium, and heavy in the rear. What I usually recommend on these GXs is they are a little heavier in the front already with the V8. It's always start with something like an 885, which is a medium-duty coil, and it's going to be about 30% stiffer than your stock coil. So, even if you don't have a bumper, if you had a roof rack or some skid plates or anything like that, that's going to be able to handle it, and it's going to be a pretty nice ride even if you don't have any of that stuff. If you know that you're never going to get any weight and you want like 1.5 inches of lift, you can go with something like the 884 coil, but it is going to give you a little bit less lift, and it is going to be pretty plush. And if you want it to be more like a factory ride, you could definitely go with the 884 and it will be nice and soft. In the rear, we have the 889s, the 898s, and the 899s. The rear coil is just as important as the front coil. I usually always recommend the medium duty coil as well, which is the 889. It's about 30% stiffer than your stock coil. It's going to be able to handle like a roof rack, a rooftop tent, some extra gear in the back. If you don't have a rear bumper, I would not recommend going with a heavy duty coil. It's going to be super stiff back there, and if you don't have that constant weight, you don't need a heavy duty coil. A lot of guys want to they want to buy their lift kit and get a lot of people when buying their lift kits, they want to get heavy duty coils, because like, who doesn't want a bumper? But it's important to remember that that you're not going to have a bumper in the next 6 to 12 months. I would not recommend buying the heavy duty coils. You're going to be disappointed. It's going to be stiff. So now we're going to talk about the next thing, which is ordering your lift kit assembled versus non-assembled. Any lift kit that we offer to assemble it here. It's $190, and I'll show you what it includes. All right, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is ordering your lift kit assembled versus non-assembled and the pros and cons. So if you were to order your lift kit non-assembled, this is what your front shocks are going to come like. It's going to come with a separate shock and a separate spring. And basically what you have to do is you have to compress this spring with a wall-mounted spring compressor, or a serious spring compressor. You're not going to be able to use, like a clamp-style spring compressor. It's going to be super sketchy. It may work, it may not, but I wouldn't recommend it. So, but that's how it's going to come, and you also have to source some top hats. You can pick these up on Amazon, O'Reilly's, but I wouldn't recommend using your stock ones unless they're most like brand new. But even then, now you have to disassemble your old coilovers just to put your new coilovers together. So, not the biggest deal in the world, but, it is some extra work, and, that's what you have to do. If you order your coilovers assembled, it's going to come out of the box exactly like this, ready to bolt in, and, you won't have to worry about anything. We use a new KYB top hats here, and, they're really nice top hats, just like OEM. And then the other option that some of you guys may ask is the trim spacers. Old Man Emu offers a couple options for lean spacers. You can put one underneath the bottom coil hat, but it does scratch the shock sometimes, and they're not always available. So what we have is a 5mm lean spacer right here. It just sits on top of the top hat like that. You shove it up in there, and now you're good to go, and you won't experience a lean. And the next thing is upper control arms. So a super important part of when installing a lift kit is looking at your upper control arms and determining, if you're going to need upper control arms and which ones that you're going to need. For this 2.5-inch lift kit here, we're going to go with our Old Man Emu upper control arms. These are going to correct our caster angle so we can get a proper alignment, a little bit more down travel, and overall better handling, on and off road. So next thing that we're going to talk about is our rear shocks. So your rear shocks are going to come out of the box exactly like this, and you're going to notice that there is a big hole here. And you're going to ask yourself, how's that going to work? So in your rear shock boxes, there is going to be a bag of hardware, and you're going to see a bushing that looks exactly like this. This is what is going to go inside here, and then you'll put your bolt and everything through. We're going to show you a quick way how to do that, and then yeah, you know, once you have that in, everything is ready to go, and you're ready for the install. All right, guys, so we've gone over all the parts here. I think we're ready to install. We're going to show you how to do this in your driveway. A disclosure. Obviously, you don't have a lift in your driveway. So a couple of the things are gonna be, you know, a little bit different, but guys, for the most part, everything that we do here is what you're gonna be able to do with basic hand tools in your driveway. I'm here with Ryan, guys. He's our awesome mechanic here at Youre Mafia. He's gonna be doing this install today, and we're gonna follow along with Ryan. He's gonna show us how to do everything, and this is a KDSS equipped GX460. So, yeah,
let's do it.
With all being said, I think I'm ready to go.
I'll show you a quick quick tip to get these bushings in. These are the ones that Breland was talking about just a second ago. So it doesn't have to be anything special. It's literally just a random bolt with some washers. All you got to do is keep one smaller than the other side going through. So, gonna have a big washer on this end. This little guy. Okay, you're gonna want to center it up as best as you can. It's not gonna be perfect, but close enough will do. And when I get to that point, I like to give it a little bit of lubricant, which will help it seat in once it goes past the little angle. At that point, you start wrenching. It's gonna slowly pull. A little bit more. I just felt it go over the lip, pop through, and there you go. And she's in. There we go. Okay, so what we're doing right now is removing the lower clamshell on your fixed point for the KDSS. You can leave this one, which is the piston-driven side, alone, and loosening the clamshell on the fixed position side will allow you to lower it down. Now, I know a lot of you will probably be in the driveway, even doing this on floor jacks or jack stands. You can still do the same thing, principle's the same, but we're basically going to lower this down slowly until the KDSS piston travels. That'll give us some room on the lower control arms to do the shocks later. I'm literally just letting it come down. It's not even touching the top, so it's just traveling. Okay, so now we're moving on from removing the front KDSS bar and the clamshell. Now that that's down and out of the way, it's going to release tension on the lower control arm. Next step's basically going to be removing your bolts for your brake lines, your ABS sensor lines, get the sensitive stuff out of the way. I'm going to transition to separating this, but I won't separate it all the way yet, and I'll show you why here in a second. Move on to the upper control arm, and then eventually removing the strut assembly itself. So that's the operation it's going to go. Now I'm going to loosen this, but I'm not going to split it yet. I'm going to go back and loosen these guys, loosen this bottom bolt right here, and then we can do the control arms. Just getting these ones loose. One in the back. Okay. So what we're going to do before we release tension on the upper control arms, the factory upper control arms are fixed bushings, meaning they are torqued when there's weight on the control arms. So whenever you separate the knuckle from the upper control arms, they're going to want to return up. So what I'll do is, before I release tension on the upper control arm main bolt, I'll loosen the knuckle bolt, but not remove it all the way. And then once I do that, then of course, if you guys are doing it on the ground in the garage, a simple hammer and punch will do the same job, but I'm going to actually use an air hammer. A couple light taps here, you'll see it release, and then once I release that, then I can take the tension off the upper control arm and then remove that. So I'll loosen that guy. And now we're free. And to keep the CV joint from extending too far, I like to put a little red bungee cord. That'll keep the knuckle and CV in place while we do the other work. Okay, butterfingers. So, got the upper control arm. The factory upper control arm has been removed now. You don't have to do this. This is just something I do to kind of catch a little bit of extra time or knock some time off. You can leave the bolt in rather than try to snake it all out. That way it'll be ready for you whenever you go to reinstall the new one. So at this point, we're ready to take the shock out. All right, so we got everything out of the way. We're ready to put the new shock in. You get orientation right here. I know you might not be able to see a whole lot. Now, okay, we got the Old Man Emu upper control arms ready to go. The thing out of the box that you need to do is actually make sure that you're getting some grease for the bushings. We use and recommend the Super Lube with PTFE. It works really good. These aren't serviceable, so that's a long-lasting grease that we haven't had any issues on a lot of miles on the vehicles. So we're about ready to put this on. Okay, we got everything torqued up. I'm gonna go ahead and give a couple pumps of grease into the ball joint, and then I'll show you how to do the dust cap and where to store the Zerk fitting. Okay, one cool thing about the OME upper control arms is the dust cover for the upper ball joint. Once you fill the ball joint with grease, you can actually remove the Zerk fitting, and it has a nice little pocket to store it in. So what I normally do is put a little bit of grease inside, put the Zerk fitting, lay it on its side, I'll keep it from falling out, and then this is actually the same thread pitch as the Zerk fitting. So you have a nice cover, and it's a good protection cover as well, keep dust out. Okay, now that we have everything installed, everything's torqued to spec. It's very important to do. Make sure you torque everything. We're gonna actually do another step that's not required, but it's what we like to do here. This is cross-check torque seal. Once this dries, it's almost a gel. It's a good visual representation. If the bolt starts to back loose, for whatever reason, you can actually see that it's moved. It's a good quick check. You see everything. If you can't tell that it's moved, then obviously it's not moved and you're good to go. So we're gonna go ahead and apply that and move on to the other side. Now what I'm gonna do is loosen the top of the shocks, the rear shocks. I'm gonna do both sides and get them prepped for the support on the pole jacks. And that way we can lower everything down at the same time. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm gonna loosen the upper rear portion of the control arm just so that I have a little bit of looseness to lower the axle. If I didn't, the bushing torqued from the factory won't allow the axle to drop as much as I need to get for putting the springs in. So we're just gonna loosen this side and I'll move over to the other side. Okay, so what you're gonna need to do for the ABS, easy, this bracket right here that mounts to the factory cross member, you just wanna pull down a little bit and you're just gonna give some extra slack so that whenever you do have the springs and the shocks installed, you have a little bit of movement there. Okay, now that we got the stock springs out, only thing we're gonna be reusing is the factory dampeners or bump stops. So you wanna reuse those, pop them in your new springs, and then they're ready to go back in. So we've got the springs in, it's up against the perch, everything's square, and we're about to throw the shocks in. Once we get the shocks in, wrap up with the KDSS, the sway bar, and that pretty much wraps up the project. We'll be ready to drop it down and put the wheels and tires on.
All right, guys, that's it. Everything is installed. It's sitting nice and level. We've already taken it on a test drive, and it's good to go. All it needs now is an alignment.